I noticed that Kathy had sent you out a copy of my chart in your packet. I had two other things that I thought we could take a look at, and a third one that we could discuss, Mr. Mayor, if that's acceptable.
Absolutely.
Would anybody in the audience like one of these? I got plenty, so it's not a big deal. Want to go?
Very well.
Gary? Mr. Mayor, as you know, we've been talking about this issue since June of this year, and the city is in the process of looking at the requirements to upgrade your wastewater treatment plant. We have a new permit that will be coming up, and we have to make some improvements to the plant to do that, to meet the permit. There are costs that are associated with that. We wrote a feasibility study that talked about a two-phase improvement to the plant, the first one occurring in the next 2 years, the next one occurring 10 years after that. So we're trying to work out a funding plan that will provide the city with enough money to accommodate those improvements as they become required. We went through a number of different scenarios to do that, and another analysis of different methods of doing it. Discussed that with the council, and it was favored that we look at a sewer rate increase rather than a tax increase to pay for that. So we're at the stage this evening, Mr. Mayor and Council, where we're trying to determine what that rate might be, that we would increase the sewer rates to pay for that. On the Schedule F handout that I gave you this evening, the front page, it's a copy from your 2009 financial report that was prepared by your auditor, and it shows that the city made a loss on its sewer utility fund of about 19% last year. So we're running in the red, and the first thing we have to do before we get to the point of looking at new expenditures is recover from the past shortfall. Now the shortfall has occurred because the city hasn't raised its rates since 2006. We've been sitting on the same rate. Inflation and costs have increased over that time at about 2.5% to 3% a year. So one would understand that 12% of that loss is something that was occurred because of inflation. So it's timely that the city review its rate schedule regardless of whether you were undertaking the improvements or not. The second page of the handout I give you is the same one that Kathy put in your packet. I printed out kind of a larger font so as you could read this one. And the one that I handed out, Mr. Mayor, is the one that looks at an extended rate increase rather than the one that Mark had suggested, that we do everything right up front and look at a 34% increase. I do have a rate schedule that I'll pass around later that shows the 34%. But this one proposes a 20% increase followed by 16, 14, 2 10s, 3 10s, and then back to the inflation rate. This would get us to the point where by the time we need to do our second improvement, there would be some money, enough money in your fund to cover that. It would also work with the City of Rushford Village to make sure that their payments were up to schedule with the city so that they kept catching up and didn't fall behind. You will note that there is one blue highlight about the middle of the sheet on the left-hand side, and I would indicate that $3,000 shortfall there would be the City of Rushford Village's. We actually ended up paying that for them because we did not collect enough money from them last year. So I would think that we'd want to get reimbursed for that at some point in the process here. And we can certainly send them a bill and work through the process. We'll probably have to show them a bunch of calculations and work to justify that, but I would guess if we're going to have to do that for the rate increase anyways. While we're at it, we might as well collect the shortfall. That's something that you concur with me about. So, Mr. Mayor, the last sheet on the handout is the same comparison that we provided you with before, that shows how Rushford's rate increases would compare with your neighboring communities. And I looked at 8 communities, and I looked at your proposed rate increases through 2012, and it takes till 2012 till we get to the point where we're at the median level of what these 8 communities are. And they're, for the most part, all communities that are of somewhere in the range of size of Rushford. So I don't think that we're out of line with our rate increases, and I think it's costs that we will incur and things that we should recover money for. You did, as I mentioned, Kathy did give you a copy of the rate increases that reflect, that are on that colored sheet that you got in your packet. Just for your information, thank you, Kathy. Here is the rate increase that would look at Mark's suggestion. You've got one, Kathy, don't you?
Yeah.
Here's some more if you guys want to look at that. As you recall, Mr. Mayor, when we were here, I think in August, visiting you on this issue, Mark thought that we should take a look at increasing the rates all at one time and getting the major part of this work done in one part. That would represent about a 34%, right? Just over a third increase in the rates. That would raise our monthly cost from 20. Where is that number, Kathy? What are we at now? 23, 28. Up to 31.29. And we did talk about that at the meeting, and I did not get a feel, Mr. Mayor, as to whether or not you were in favor of that. So when Kathy put the packet together, she sent you out the 20% increase, which is the one that ends up at $27.94. In our opinion, it bears that the city increase its rate. We would request that you do that over a multi-year period, because when we go for financing, the PFA will want to see that the rate increase is such that it will sustain the bond payments, and both of the rate schedules that you have in front of you will do that. It is, I think tonight we're asking you whether you want to go with 34% increase, which would result in a monthly cost per REU of $31.29, or if you want to start off with a slightly lesser increase and end up with about a $28 a month cost per residential equivalent unit. Mr. Mayor, I stand for questions.
Any questions from council?
If you propose, or if we decide on the 20% increase, would then you advise that next year we would raise it
Absolutely.
a proportionate amount, or what?
Yep, and we have that on the sheet there, Mr. Dahl. If you look on the sheet, there is a column on the right-hand side called projected sewer rate increase. It's a column that is not highlighted, it's in white. And it talks to the 20% increase this year, 16 next, 14 the year after that, and 3/10, and then getting back on a cost of living increase. And we would, of course, as time goes by, we keep our eye on that, and if it needs to come down, we could do that.
But also it could go up.
It could go up. You know, unfortunately, we've seen loss of users in town because of the flood. We lost about, I think it was about 100 connections, 33, 32 at the trailer park all by itself. So we have a little bit of an uphill struggle here to keep our head above water, so to speak.